Están en la ciencia.
Get ready, this one's fun, and right away we're going to question everything you know about bluffing. There's a $5 button straddle on, and we face one limp when we look down in the hijack at 10-8 of spades. I raise this one up to $30, hoping to isolate this player. Folds around to the limper, and he does make the call. However, the button straddle calls as well, getting ultimate last action, so now we're sandwiched in between two other opponents to a flop of Jack 3 deuce with 2 clubs. The limper checks, and we've got really nothing going on for us on this board. I decide to check, and so does the button. The pot's about $100, and we definitely have some potential to steal it on some good turn cards, and we get just that, the king of diamonds. The low jack checks again, symbolizing he probably doesn't have too strong of a hand. I decide to take a stab here for $40, hoping just to take this one down right now, but the button straddle has other plans. He makes a call, and the low jack gets out of the way. Kinda kicking myself under the table for even getting myself in this predicament, but the river comes in offsuit queen. Again, this card is just way better for me than my opponent. I think I can put majority of his range, which is going to consist of weaker pairs, in a really tough spot if I fire big on this card. He's likely going to hate seeing this card with most of his hands. We have a 10 which blocks some straights, and so sitting here with 10 high, probably the worst hand I'll ever have in this scenario, I decide to fire big one more time as a bluff for $150. The button is clearly in a tough spot. He thinks about it for a bit, and our bluff gets through. Let's go. Yeah, just kidding. He calls really quickly and shows us queen deuce of clubs. He wrecked our soul by flopping the flush draw and rivering a pair, calling us down all the way for us to show the 10 high bluff. Well, you know, in poker, sometimes you bluff and you get called by the exact hands you're trying to bluff against. It's like trying to hide from your mom at the grocery store, but she spots you anyways. You can run, but you can't hide.
First hand for me, we have ace jack of clubs under the gun +1. The button straddle is on for 5. We open it up to 30. Capron, our good friend, aka Funky Punts, on the big blind calls, and the button calls as well. So we're off 3 ways to a flop, which comes jack 6-5 rainbow with a club. Pretty great flop for us. Capron checks. We are going to c-bet. We c-bet half pot for $45. The button calls and Capron folds. So now $180 in the middle, and the turn is the 7 of hearts. Time to keep betting, charging worse jacks and draws. We bet $110. He goes into the tank and makes the fold.
This hand, a loose action player in the hijack makes it $20, and the big blind makes a call. We're on the $5 button straddle with ultimate last action and look down at king queen offsuit. Completing action, calling seems just fine. However, the hijack player was definitely playing too many hands, and I think at this point king queen can actually become a 3-bet for value here. If we take a look at some of the charts from pokercoaching.com, well, on the button facing a raise from the hijack, we should be folding 83% of the time, calling about 10% of the time, and 3-betting about 7.5% of the time. As you can see in orange, those are all the hands that we're going to 3-bet. We see king queen offsuit is a mix between 3-betting and calling, and so when it's close, I choose aggression. I 3-bet this one to $80, which drives the big blind out of the hand, and the hijack decides to defend and make the call. Flop comes ace 10 deuce with 2 clubs, and he checks. I bet $70 here, and he quickly makes a call. The turn comes to 4 of spades, and he checks again. At this point, we might be able to get the hijack to fold a 10, or maybe some weaker pocket pairs, but I think a lot of those actually fold on the flop. I don't expect him to fold an ace at any point, and if he's got a club draw, we're actually ahead of him right now. I decided to check this card back and realize our equity. The river comes the 7 of clubs, we completely brick it out, and the hijack now leads out for $200. I immediately fold, give up the hand, and we lose this one to the action player at the table. We're on the button straddle again this hand and look down at the ladies' pocket queens. There are 2 $5 limps until the cutoff raises it to 35, folds to the first limper, who goes for the old limp re-raise, not something you see every day. He makes it 120. There's one player who folds, and then the cutoff calls to 120. I'm next to act. There's about 250 in the pot, and I've got about 500 in my stack. You know what the move is here. I'm all in for my 500 bones. And now the initial limp raiser re-raises my jam to $1,000. That gets the other player to fold on out of there, and we're up against what we see is pocket kings. We're absolutely crushed, in horrible shape, and our opponent asks us if we want to run it twice. I always say yes to anyone who wants to run it multiple times, so let's head to 2 runouts. And just like that, bink, first flop, we hit a set of queens, and better yet, the turn is another queen. We hit quads on the first runout. We're going to secure at least half the pot, and on the second runout, we're going to have to get extremely lucky. Unfortunately, that does not happen for us. The second runout bricks off, and we chop this pot up. Can't complain though about running queens into kings and not losing any money.
This one's a fun one. We've got pocket jellos on the small blind. The button straddle's on for 5. There's 2 limps, and we're bumping it up. We make it $40. One of the limpers and our good friend Gil. Check out Gil Jack Poker. He's on the button, and he makes the call. Off to a flop, which comes 7-7-3 rainbow. Pretty dry board. A 7 would suck, but we're still c-betting. Tons to get value from. We make it $45, and we get 1 caller in Gil on the button. Before we head to the turn, just an insane announcement and a massive thank you is in order for you guys. We just joined Above the Felt, a poker marketing and talent agency. This is going to take our content to the next level. I mean, look at this roster of talent they already have. We are going to get to collab with all of these people. We love Rampage. Chris Moneymaker, the guy that won the main event. Just insane that we are being recognized alongside these guys, and we couldn't have done it without you all. So thank you seriously so much for all of your support. Link in the description to check us out on Above the Felt. And now we hit the turn, which is the Rainbow 5. Now Gil and I have some history, and he likes to get me. The main value hands we beat are 8s, 9s, and 10s, and I think all of them will bet for protection if I check to them, and I think all of his bluffs will start to attack as well. So I go for the check, and sure enough, Gil fires out a bet for $110. We make the call. The river, with about 435 in the middle, is the Jack of Diamonds. Yes, bink. And now I'm praying he has a 7. Now, I think all of his pocket pairs that we mentioned earlier are going to check back, which we don't want. I never have to worry about a 7 folding to a river lead from me because we're getting it all in if he's got a 7. And if I bet small, it's going to look blockery and perhaps get him to spaz with his bluffs. So I think all around we like this, and we place a small bet of 135. Now, the one problem in hindsight is my stack size. We've only got 225 behind, and given the size of the pot, I'm pretty committed, which I think is going to deter some of his bluffs. Now, let's see what he thinks of this.
I would put you all in, but I don't think you're going to fold with that little behind. If you had jacks full right there, I was going to shove, then you would have snapped me. Did you have jacks?
This one we looked down at the beautiful Ace-5 of diamonds and opened it up to $25 with the button straddle on. Our buddy Gil in the small blind makes a call, and Capron on the button straddle decides to defend as well, so we're 3 ways in between 2 opponents, headed to a flop, and it comes Ace-King-8 rainbow with 1 diamond. We've got top pair and a backdoor nut flush draw. Gil checks in the small blind, and it's on to me. In between 2 opponents with a weak top pair, I decide to start this one off with a check, and as I suspected, Capron on the button checks as well, and the turn is great. It's a 5 of spades, bringing in the second spade on board. Gil checks, and I bet $60 here, sizing up. Capron folds on the button, and Gil, however, sticks around in the small blind and makes a call. We're heads up in position to a river, and it is the 10 of hearts. Gil checks it over to me, and now it's a decision of how big should we bet. Me and Gil have plenty of history together playing poker. We've been talking about bluffing each other all session, and so I think this is a great spot to go for a really big bet and try to get a hero call from either a pair of aces or a pair of kings. I bet $210, just over the size of the pot. You might have thought Gil was auditioning on ABC in front of Mark Cuban because this sends him deep into the tank.
What do you think? Queen Jack of Hearts is so sick. I don't know, man. I've been watching these live streams and I haven't seen too many big bluffs with Jack. He knows when to call him down like.
Several minutes go by, Mr. Wonderful's shaking his head and tapping his wristwatch, and Gil finally decides to make the fold. Nice fold to him. We don't get any more value on the river, but we scoop in this pot our way.
Here we have Ace-Queen offsuit under the gun +1. The button straddle's on for 5. We bump it up to 35. The cutoff calls and the small blind calls. Off to a flop 3 ways, which comes 10-7-6 all diamonds. Small blind checks. Our queen is a diamond, not our ace. This board is just not us multi-way. I check, and the cutoff checks too. So we're off to a turn, which is the king of spades, and the small blind checks again. And here's the spot. We've seen both the cutoff and the small blind have an opportunity to take the betting lead, and they've both passed on that opportunity. So this card hits our range. We pick up a gutter as well. I say we start semi-bluffing. I make it $75, and only the cutoff makes the call. Off to the river, which is the ace of diamonds. We bink the second nuts, and now it's just time to value bet. I bet $150, and he thinks about it and goes for the min click jam for 300 effective. I mean, if you've got it, you got it, man. We make the call. The pot reaches $855, and he shows pocket eights with the 8 of diamonds. Not quite sure what he was doing with that river jam, but I'm not complaining. We take this one down.
This hand we're playing 1-2-5 and face 2 limps before looking down in the cutoff at ace-4 hearts. I think this is good enough for an open. I make it $35, and only the small blind calls surprisingly, so we're heads up in position to a miraculous flop of 6-5-3 with 2 hearts and a diamond. And interestingly enough, the small blind decides to lead out for a super small size of $20. Probably could just call and face a turn in position, but we're still here with ace high. He might be leading out with some weak pairs, and we might be able to get them to fold on specific runouts if we put them under max aggression. I raise it up to $70 here, and now we're faced with a weird spot when he min click raises me, 3-bets me on the flop to $140. He's got about $200 more behind. Looks like we ran into a monster, but we got to get it in here when we have the most equity. I go all in, and he obviously makes a call. We're off to a run out, and he asked me to run it twice. As you know, I'm always going to say yes. Here we go, off the 2 runouts. First one comes to 3 of clubs and 3 of diamonds. We have absolutely no hope to win that board. And the second run out comes to 9 of spades, and bang, the queen of hearts on the river. We drill the nuts, and we're gonna chop this one up versus 7-4 clubs. The small blind drilled the nuts on the flop, and we were in actually pretty bad shape considering our straight outs were not live. We chopped this one up though. I know everyone loves a chop pot. We're on the button straddle once again and look down at king queen of spades. Folds all the way around to the small blind, a rare occasion in these Texas wild games, and he makes it $35. It folds to me, and the small blind in this particular hand was our buddy Gerard. He makes some pretty crazy and incredible plays. I like to call him Gerard the Animal, and he loves it too. He just sat down and he wants to play some pots against me.
This is your chance.
I decide just to call on the button, and I'm happy to take a flop in position versus him. Flop comes king 9-7 rainbow, great flop for us, and he bets out pretty large, $75, about the size of the pot. I make the call, and the turn is an offsuit 4. He continues betting here and ramps up the aggression, betting $200. I'm still feeling pretty good here. I know Gerard likes to bluff, and the river comes an offsuit 8. Gerard now slows down and checks. I'm not sure if there's too much merit in betting here. Maybe we can get some value versus some weaker pairs, but I decide against it. I check this one back, and we see Gerard had the 10-8 of diamonds for the flop open-ender and checked it back on the river when he hit a pair. We scoop this pot in, taking some money from the animal.
Here we have ace-7 of diamonds in the big blind. The button straddles on for 5. Our homie Capron in the low jack opens it up to 25. The cutoff calls, and we call. Off to a flop 3 ways, which comes king 5 deuce with 2 diamonds. Shout out to our comment giveaway winner of this week. If you guys want to win, comment anything down below. Maybe something we can improve upon in our vlog, something you like. We'll pick one of you and give you $10 next week. I check, Capron c-bets 35, and the cutoff calls. Now it's decision time. Capron, aka Funky Punts, he likes to get sticky with us. So I don't think turning this into a semi-bluff, especially against 2 opponents, is gonna work here. So I like to just take my major plus EV pot odds, make the call, and take a turn. That turn is the queen of hearts. We check, but now Capron checks, and the cutoff takes the lead. He bets just $70, less than half pot bet. So I say we take a river. I make the call, and Capron folds. The river is the queen of clubs. We don't get there, don't think it's worth bluffing at. We check, he checks it back, and shows king deuce for the flop 2 pair that turned into kings and queens by the river. So yeah, if we check raised flop, that would not have gone over too well. We don't get there, we lose this one, but it's okay.
This is a hand that I unfortunately am going to have to talk about, although I really do not want to. There's an open from the hijack of $15. We're in the small blind with ace-10 offsuit and decide just to make the call. The big blind now, also Gerard the Animal, 3-bets this one up to $75, and the hijack folds. For some context here, Gerard just lost 2 massive pots back to back and he's clearly tilted. As you saw in the previous hand against him, he does love to bluff and he fires at some pretty creative spots. I make the call here for $75, assuming that there's a lot of boards that I'm going to connect with very strongly that he's going to blast on. So we might be able to win stacks catching him bluffing here. This is a horrible call. We're $1,100 deep. Calling a 3-bet out of position with ace-10 offsuit here is going to just be a losing play overall. Not happy with it, but we're headed to a flop of 8 deuce deuce with 2 hearts and a diamond. I check and Gerard continues for $75. I'm still not buying what he's selling. I make the call. The turn is the 5 of clubs. I check. And now Gerard bets $375. He way overbets the pot here, going super polar. And at this point, I just had a really weird feeling he was bluffing. It felt off, and when Gerard likes to bluff, he tends to overbet a lot, especially when it seems like my range is really weighted towards middling pairs. It seems like he's trying to put max pressure on those types of hands and get me to fold. I also thought he might be bluffing though, however, with some better hands than me like ace king, ace queen, and ace jack. So what I'm trying to say is some of his bluffs beat us, so he clearly cannot call here. However, I just had an inkling he was bluffing here. I've got just enough behind to hopefully make him fold any hand that isn't an overpair. And although my line doesn't make a lot of sense, I go all in for $980 total. And Gerard snap calls. Oh my gosh, what did we just do? He immediately flips over kings. We go to a river card. We brick it. I should have been out of here hours ago. I'm regretting this play. It was super undisciplined, but I just thought I could get it through. I went for it and completely face planted. Very disappointing way to end the session.
I'm so upset right now. I probably shouldn't even be recording. I'm about to freaking throw my phone out the window. I had to get up right after that hand. I just knew I wasn't gonna play my best after that. In for 1,000, out for 325.
Into the game for 500, out for 1225. Thanks for watching.